Hello, I'm Adrian Ashton. I support community businesses of all types with a wide range of issues that they may be struggling with. Many entrepreneurs and groups decide, I just need to get on and do good stuff. And rightly so, why should you spend time getting bogged down with all this legal jargon and choice? Just go out there and fix people's lives, make the community better. Well, there are three reasons why getting to grips with this legal structure question is really important. Number one, it's about the money. The legal form you adopt influences the different ways that you can access money. For example, if you've got a model or a service that's going to be very reliant upon getting grant funding, then being a charity is probably going to increase your chances. But that might be the best choice to help you with that financial model. If, however, as an alternative, you're saying, actually, we've heard about this thing called community shares, and we really like the idea of community shares, we really want to pursue that as a way to bring the money in, to bring the community together, you can only do that with one very specific legal form, which is a community benefit society. So money is one of the main reasons why it's worth getting to grips with this. The second is about the future. So in the future, things are going to change because they always do. And the question becomes, within your project, your venture, what should people be allowed to change? How far can that original purpose flex, grow? How far can the activities and services you offer change as well? For example, as a charity or a community interest company, if you want to change your purposes or even the activities you do, you must have the agreement of the regulator before you can change them. So it really locks in and protects that original founding vision. If, however, you want something more flexible, that says actually we should be allowed to change stuff as we want, the pivot idea that's popularized, then a company form is much easier and more flexible. So that future flexibility is an important consideration. And the third reason why it's worth getting to grips with this question of legal structures and forms is about respecting the people who are supporting you on your journey. Because we ask people to join us as co-founders, to join our boards as charity trustees or non-executive directors. We're asking them to give their time, their energy, themselves to help make this work. Now, if it all goes wrong and we've not incorporated, we've not selected a legal form, then those people become personally liable. They risk losing the shirt off their back. That doesn't seem very fair or respectful. If we've incorporated with an appropriate form, then actually it all goes wrong, then they're not going to stand to lose anything personally, that we can protect at least their personal sort of savings, their home, in recognition of the energy and commitment they've shown to us. So if you've started to do a bit of homework already about what legal form should I be, you're probably feeling a bit confused, a bit dizzy, you want to lie down. That's perfectly normal, okay? Because there are 16 different legal form options that a social business can incorporate or register itself within. That's a lot of stuff to wade through and figure out. That's 16 options. Above those are different regulators as well, who have different interests, different powers, different expectations on you. So take your time with it, be easy on yourself. The other reason this stuff can be confusing is because lots of other people have their own agendas within it as well. So for example, if you're receiving support from a funded program, then that funded program will have targets it has to achieve. And some of those targets will say, this program helped to register so many new charities or community interest companies or cooperative societies, which means the support you're getting for free is trying to push you down a choice that may not be the best for you. So never be afraid to push back. Remember, ultimately, whatever option you pick, you have to live with it and sleep with it. And if it goes wrong, you have to answer for it. So if something hits the fan and it all kicks off and you stand there and say, well, Bob said it was a good idea, that's not going to wash. You're in hot for it, so make sure you've taken the time to understand it. Okay, that's the other reason. And the third reason this stuff can be confusing is, I think it's a bit like accountancy and bookkeeping. If you've done anything with accounts or bookkeeping, your head is also probably a bit confused because of these strange bits of jargon and language that these numbers people use. Amortization, depreciation, return on capital. What do these things mean? I feel stupid. I'd better leave well alone. Legal structures options has a similar thing. So, for example, no matter what your legal form is, the same things apply. If you are a charity, you'll have something called a constitution. So you have a governing document that says, this is where we write up why we exist and how we cover the core elements of how we work. How we decide who should be trustees, how we decide how money should be spent, how we decide if we wind up, what should happen next, and the processes we go through. If we're a charity, that's called a constitution. If we are a limited company, same things, but it's called articles, but it covers all the same stuff. If we are a cooperative society, same things again, but they're called rules. So this is also adding to the confusion. It's the same basic thing, but it's called lots of different things depending on which avenue we approach. So in my experience of working with community businesses over the last 3 decades or so, sometimes people realise they've made a mistake with their choice of legal form. In a sense, they've slipped up on a banana skin that no one told them to watch out for. Where that happens, it's usually one of 2 reasons ultimately it comes down to. One is a group has copied someone else's choice of form. That they've said, oh, we've seen someone do something similar to us, they were a KIC, for example, so that's what we should be. And what they don't realise, of course, is that what maybe didn't quite work out for their business model, how they wanted to operate. The other thing that they'll slip up on is because they chose a legal form because someone else told them that's what they should be. A grant funding officer, a business advisor, someone who ultimately isn't taking legal responsibility for it with them. So people acted with good intentions, absolutely, but they didn't take the time to pause and check to say, let's look into it for ourselves. Let's ask the right questions to make sure it's the best choice for us and we understand why. Because ultimately, that group, those people have to answer for their choice at some point. And if they don't understand why that's the best form for them, they're gonna look silly, they'll have egg on their face, and they'll lose the trust and confidence of other people around them. So one of the main challenges that people have, we've talked already about how confusing this stuff can seem when you're trying to approach it and make sense of it. A lot of the materials out there, guidance, booklets, charts, just drop you straight into it and say, here's all the stuff, read about them, all the detail. I've developed a toolkit or a framework called CHAMP that people I've worked with tell me they really find it a much easier way than to approach those options and to work out which is the right one or which isn't the right one even. And it's called CHAMP, okay? And it's predicated on each letter of CHAMP is a word which goes off into a prompt. So the first letter of CHAMP is C, which stands for credibility. So for the group, it's that question of who do you need to win over? Who is the audience who you rely on the most for their favour? So for example, if you know that you're bidding for contracts in, say, the health sector or the justice sector, then lots of commissioners in those worlds like the idea of community interest companies. So being a KIC, a community interest company, doesn't guarantee you'll win those contracts, but it does make it easier for them to like you and to be talking to you, okay? So that's credibility. H is for history. So this is about the stories that other people tell about you, your brand as an enterprise, as a venture. So in years to come, when small children sit around campfires and sing songs about what you did, what kind of things are they going to be talking about? And again, that idea of the legal form you adopt can influence that strongly and protect it. A is for accountability. This is a really important one. So accountability is about who mandates you, who validates you as a social business. So who do you go to on what basis to say, yes, we are still doing the right things, and yes, we are still the right people to be leading this. Now, in a cooperative, in particular community cooperative, then it's that wider community. The members have a legal say in the business. Once a year, they decide, yes, these people on the board are still the right pair of hands to be leading it, and we mandate them, all of us, legally saying, carry on doing this. Now that's quite a powerful voice, quite a powerful message. If, however, a group says, actually, we want something more light touch, a bit more flexible, actually, we should be down to us to make that decision ourselves, we need to be fleet of foot, responsive, then maybe a charity works better. Because a charity can be formed without members, so the trustees make the decisions themselves, but they are accountable to the charity commission. So once the charity commission says, are you still doing the right things? We decide as the regulator, are you doing the right things? So it's that protection, that reassurance point about accountability. M is for money. And the money question is all about what types of money do we like or do we want to access? So for example, if we know grants are going to be really important to us, then being a charity may be a good choice option, because that means there are more places we can apply to. Again, doesn't guarantee we'll get that money, but we have more options to apply for it. However, if we're thinking, as we said earlier, community share offer, then actually we have to be a community benefit society. If we're thinking about social investment and saying, actually, we want to take some kind of investment, but we want to take it through individuals, some kind of equity model, then again, the choice of legal form we adopt allows or blocks those options both now and in the future. And the last letter of CHAMP is P. P is for power and control and decision making. Who are the people within your business who should have decision making authorities? How do they have them? How do they win them? How do they keep them? What keeps them in check? So when I'm working with a group, I give them those 5 prompts: credibility, history, accountability, money, and power. And I say, what are your ideal scenarios around each of those? And from that, we can then look at all these 16 options and then much more quickly whittle them down and say, that one won't work because it won't let you do this. This one might, keep it on the side, add to it, we'll come back and read up on it a bit more. As it says in large colourful letters on the cover of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic. Okay? Whatever you do in your choice of legal form, it's not the end of the world if you realise, oops, we got it wrong, we need to change it. You can always change your legal form from one thing to another once you set it up and into the future. However, and there's always a but, isn't there? However, depending on what you started with and what you realise you should have been, will be harder or easier depending on what those two things are. So the more time you can spend being comfortable and confident you got it as good as you could at the start, the better it is in the future. But again, if things change, if you realise it wasn't quite right, you can always change it, but it may not be that straightforward. Hopefully this has been enough to get your interest and make you realise how important a question this is for you to get right. If you want to continue your journey and figure out the answers to the questions you're now starting to ask yourselves, a really good starting point will be the resource pages on the Bolton CVS website. But also get in touch with some of the team here as well, and we can arrange some conversations, workshops to help you on your journey along the way as well.